In this video, I'm going to show you guys a single flyout in the Phantom and my first encounter with a MiG-21bis. I'm going to try to explain my thought process and what I'm trying to do, starting with this takeoff here. It takes a bit to get the SP to actually spawn in the Phantom, and if you lose it, you're out for 30 minutes during confrontation, and you're not going to be able to bring another one in. So it represents a significant investment to actually fly out into this plane. It's also extremely expensive, and making lions in Sim is an absolute bitch. I will link a video about that in the description in case you're thinking about getting into the game mode. So anytime I'm on a runway, obviously I want to get off the runway as quick as possible. This is the most dangerous time to be in a Phantom. Runway strafing in top tier Sim is ridiculously easy. You can either sit on the deck and go at high speeds and nobody will ever touch you, or you can just float around at high altitude around the back side of the map and spot every single dot of every single person taking off. And at this moment, I do know that there is a MiG-21 somewhere around the map right now. So I'm spawning as far away as I possibly can, going full afterburner for takeoff, trying to get a top speed as quickly as possible, trying to keep some situational awareness, and immediately going to my preferred radar setting so I can start getting more situational awareness of targets ahead of me. Now this radar does have friend or foe, so I am able to tell what targets ahead of me are hostile and what are friendly, but when it gets really cluttered together and I'm locking targets, as you're seeing in the middle of the map here, sometimes the radar will lock on the incorrect target and allow you to lock on a friendly. I believe there's a furball ahead of me, so rather than going close and getting into a visual engagement, I'm going to go away and come in for another pass. Radar guided missiles do get a lot of hate in this game, but I have learned how to use them and they are quite an essential part of my playstyle in the Phantom now. I try to keep engagements BVR when possible. Now I do also have AIM-9Js, which are fantastic air-to-air missiles, but I don't want to close that gap until I understand what's happening there. If I go after the wrong target and a MiG-21 ends up behind me, or even if I go after a MiG-21, I really cannot let them behind me. R60s are just too good, their counter to me is too fantastic, and even though I do have countermeasures, and I can evade them reasonably often if I go off of afterburner and dump flares, I have really poor rear visibility, and in order to maintain visibility on the person behind me and see if they are launching IR missiles, I have to bleed a lot of speed. And then the actual process of dodging that missile, once again, it involves me either going off afterburner or pulling very high Gs, which is just going to bleed more speed. It is a death sentence for me to get a MiG-21 on my tail, and so I need to make absolute sure that I have the MiG-21 locked, and I'm pushing into the MiG-21 and getting a solution on him before I have to extend away. And if there's a furball, I'm just not going to risk it. So you watched me turn around and use the length of the map and now move back towards Alpha and back towards the center of the map, where I'm now proceeding to look for individual hostile targets and see if I can get any awareness of what's going on. Now the only target I've picked up is this bomber ahead of me that I have locked, and for a while there I was just tracking his dot while letting my radar scan to see if I picked anything else up, and now I'm doing the opposite. I'm locking the bomber and scanning visually to see if there's any targets off to my right, because I am now entering Alpha and Alpha is being capped by an enemy. I'm going to launch my Sparrow now, and it's going to be a pretty easy track for the Sparrow on a bomber, but there is a contrail just below me and I do hear an engine, so I am now nervous about potentially overextending and being on top of enemy contact. The missile hits, it was a Tu-14 as predicted, just a bomber going nice and slow for me, and so now I'm going to hit the deck and go evasive. You can hear me drop flares while I do this. I'm going to have to go defensive for quite a while now because anything is a threat to me. Even if it's just a Sabre, or I guess we're fighting Russians so there wouldn't be any, but even if it's just an early jet with something that is the equivalent of an AIM-9B, that is a significant threat to me if I don't maintain situational awareness, which requires constant back and forth rolls like you're seeing me do here. When I'm unsure about whether or not I can actually see what's on my tail, I'm dumping periodic flares, and I'm just constantly reversing direction and trying to get eyes to see if I'm being pursued. And this is actually going to extend for quite a while just because I'm not entirely certain, and I do have to be quite cautious because I'm pretty sure I did unintentionally merge with an enemy. So cutting ahead now, I maintain semi-defensive for a while just to make sure nothing's on my tail and get back into position to push the center of the map. At this point, I'm keeping my radar on broadband because I don't fully trust that there couldn't be a MiG somewhere on the eastern or western map borders that I also need to be aware of. So although I'm pointing at the current objective and the current furball I can see, I am keeping my radar scanning everything. As I get closer, I am going to put my radar on the narrow band, which is going to focus on the area directly in front of my aircraft. While I'm doing this, I'm going to pick up, I believe, 3 different targets. I'm going to lock something off to the west that I am not entirely certain I want to pursue. Then I'm going to see something at high altitude in front of me, which I'm going to keep an eye on because I believe it's a fighter. And then I'm also going to, on my radar, see something low right. That's the bomber that you just saw me ping there. So while I'm lining up on that but keeping my radar eyes open, I see multiple other contacts. There's a high altitude guy up there. That ends up being a MiG-15, and it's going to get shot down pretty shortly. At this point in time, I'm just thinking I'll launch a Sparrow and then try to break away if I can, because I'm getting to that range. But that's when he gets destroyed by something, and I decide to break off. Now while I'm doing this, I try to re-lock the bomber and see if I can't get a quick Sparrow off, but I'm way too late, and as I'm looking down and trying to figure out my controls and figure out the launch, I fail to realize he's coming really head-on with me and is almost a kilometer away. So I launch a missile that was obviously never going to track. But the issue is, while I'm doing this and pulling away, whatever the third target that I pinged was that I didn't pursue is now on my 6. So I have big issues. Now, I did not get a good look at what was on my tail, but I did not think it was a MiG-19 or MiG-21. It looked more like an LA-200 or LA-15 or something. I'm not 100% certain. But either way, I have to take him seriously and assume that there's a possibility that he has low-G air-to-air missiles, and that is going to require me to fly in a defensive fashion, which means I don't want to be on afterburner, because otherwise my flares are basically pointless, and I need to be turning to maintain visual. Right now, if an R-60 was coming at me, I would be absolutely fucked, but this semi-defensive posture can still let me outrun most 8.0s without dumping all my energy and giving them an opportunity to get guns on target. This is a very nerve-wracking procedure, because it's basically a half-ass counter to 2 potentially different threats. He's chasing me still.
Attention to the designated grid zone!
As I move closer to our airfields, I'm hoping to use them as a detection to determine if he's still on my tail, as they will start flashing if he flies over them. One thing that's also important to note is that both times I've encountered an enemy fighter here, the MiG-21 has been in the kill feed killing other targets, so I know it's not the MiG-21. However, I am now worried about where that MiG-21 could be, as it just killed a B-57. I'm assuming it's either on the east border or west border, killing people who are doing bombing runs, and I need to keep an eye on my RWR to see if he pings me.
Attention to the map!
Can't fucking tell if he's still behind me. That's enemy. This is one of the greatest parts about the Phantom, is just identifying and launching on a target instantly like that. It's very satisfying. But anyway, I'm going to skip ahead here to later on. I've turned, I'm heading back towards the center of the map, and I have pretty much confirmed that whatever is on my tail is no longer there. I'm now just looking specifically for this MiG-21. I pass a Harrier, and then that Harrier soon appears on the kill feed and gives me a rough idea of the general vicinity of the MiG-21. It's a big fucking target. I think it's right here. I'm going to be switching to predominantly live comms at this point, and I apologize for the audio quality. When I record with shadow play, it makes things really harsh sounding. Not our guy. I don't think. Is it? No, can't be. Maybe? I think he went over this mountain range and broke north. I see 2 targets. I think one of them is a bomber and one of them is our guy. Because if he turns off his radar, he can sneak up on me if I'm wrong. That's a bomber I could take out real quick. That's something else inbound. And that's a third thing. Who do I go after? Who's the MiG-21 who's just bombers?
Attention to the designated grid square.
So at this point I have a lock on him and he launches a missile. So because he's launched a missile, something is going to happen to the kill feed, most likely, and I'm going to learn what this plane is. So I'm going to cut my radar right now so that I'm not pinging his RWR and he doesn't know that I'm coming. I'm going completely stealthy here, and I'm going to try to lock to this guy's tail like glue with Sidewinders. I do not want to accidentally overshoot. Even though he has a better performing aircraft at low speeds, if he takes me into a low speed stall fight, I'm committing to it. And I'm spooling up my Sidewinders now. There's the kill. So now the top dog is dealt with, we're clean for 20 minutes, he won't be back in another MiG-21bis. I just need to go and probably get some more fuel and some more missiles because I'm running low. But that is the scariest part of being in a Phantom, is having to land, and it's the reason why I don't afterburn too much if I can help it. But we are very fortunate because a very kind member of our team manages to take care of that problem for us. And I get killed by a fucking friendly.